Hey everyone, please forgive my appearance. I'm actually sick today. I wanted to go into the book of Revelation with you guys today. Let's just jump right into it. So I'm going to share my screen. There we go. We got the book of Revelation. So what I have to do is I have to go over the 12 signs with you guys. I have to do this every single time because there's going to be new people watching this. They're going to watch them out of order. So I have to do it. Aquarius is the first sign that I talk about, which is represented by the man with the water pitcher. It's the story of Zeus and Aquarius. Basically, Zeus saw a 14-year-old boy on Earth, and he wanted him in heaven with him. So he bartered with his dad. His dad let him come up after he gave him a bunch of riches. The son came up, and he started serving people with this water pitcher, something called ambrosia, which was the nectar of the gods. And he eventually got sick of doing it, so he went to the side of heaven and poured the water out, which is why you see this picture of the man with the water pitcher pouring it out. It caused the flood on Earth. That's where the Greeks get their flood story from. And then what basically happened was Zeus was furious with them and he was going to punish him. But instead, he decided to basically immortalize him as the constellation Aquarius, because he realized that he was wrong in bringing him up. So anytime you hear the words son of man, man, baptism, water pitcher, fountain, stream, river, pond, lake, things of that nature, you're talking about Aquarius. And the same can be said for Pisces too. Now I know that Aquarius is an air sign, okay? But because there's water within the sign, in the picture of the sign, it could be used to talk about water, whereas Pisces is actually a water sign. So this one, obviously, when they're talking about Leviathan, fish, water, and all the previous examples I gave you, that could be Pisces too. Then Aries is the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day, 12-hour night. It's also the Passover. So the Jews celebrate Passover, which is when God passes over Egypt and smites the firstborn son. You'll see this common theme, the death of the firstborn son, with everybody who didn't smear the ram or the lamb's blood. The ram's blood, Aries, interesting, on their front doorstep, okay, on their overhead, on their porch. In astrology, this is the day, March 21st, where the sun actually goes over the equator. So it's celebrated as the Passover. In Christianity, the passing over is changed and it's called the resurrection of God's son, S-U-N. So whenever you hear ram, lamb, shepherd, ram's horn, Jewish people, for example, they're talking about Aries, because the Jews are the people of Aries. That's why they blow the ram's horn, as I'm sure you've heard everybody say. Taurus is the bull. And when you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know that you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seeds so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow being a female bull, they're talking about Taurus. Gemini are the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, they're talking about Gemini. Then Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature. So what the sun does is, starting on December 25th, it rises a degree. The next day it rises another, every day until it hits June 21st. When it hits June 21st, it stays at that height. That's the summer solstice. It's the longest day of the year, the shortest night. And then it walks sideways for 3 days and stays at that height. Then on June 25th, it drops a degree, and then it continues to drop a degree every day until it hits December 21st, which is the day they said the sun was dead, because it doesn't rise above the horizon. It's the winter solstice. It's the longest night of the year, the shortest day. And then it walks for 3 days, just like it did before. And that's what the sun does, year in and year out. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, the reason you hear beetle and you think of Cancer is because the Egyptian Zodiac, the scarab, actually took place of the beetle. The scarab took place of the crab. That's why St. Augustine called Jesus the good beetle. Then in Leo, he's the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So there's many instances in the Bible where they're talking about the kingdom of heaven on earth. That's the sun being in Leo because it's in its rightful home. So whenever you hear lion, lioness, or cub, you're talking about Leo. Then Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. So remember before when you said that you planted Taurus? Well, basically, the reason it's a virgin holding a wheat stalk is because the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, You can look this up too. Corn is not a modern day crop. Corn has been around for 10,000 years, and you harvest it in Virgo, just like you do the other grains. They're talking about Virgo. Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. So it's celebrated when it goes over the spring equinox as the Passover. It's celebrated. But when it goes over the fall solstice, it's being sentenced to death. First, it's got to be betrayed, then it's got to be killed, and then it's got to resurrect. Okay? So it's mourned. Okay, so whenever you hear law, justice, judge, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, lawly things, you're talking about Libra. Whenever you hear wine, vineyard, wine press, grapes, you're talking about Libra too, because Libra is when you press the grapes into the wine. It's also olive oil season. So that's when you press the olives into oil, is during Libra. So there's a lot going on in Libra. Then Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like two lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death. And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. The sun is judged in Libra and is betrayed in Scorpio. Now, finally, in Sagittarius, this is where the man with the bow and the arrow shoot the sun, inflicting further punishment on the sun and killing it. And I explained that on December 21st, which is in Sagittarius, is known as the day of death. So whenever they're talking about death in the Bible, this is the day metaphorically that it happens, December 21st. So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, spear, I went over spear in the last lecture, horseman, you're talking about Sagittarius. There's 4 deaths in Revelation. There's 4 horsemen in Revelation. The horseman is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the death. There's 4 deaths of Jesus in the 4 Gospels. Okay, so that's why. And Capricorn is the goat because he likes to climb the mountain. It starts the new year. Well, the new year started in Aries, yes, but in as far as the sun goes, the sun comes back to life December 25th. Okay, so John's vision of Christ. I turned around to see the voice that was speaking to me, and when I turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands, and among the lampstands was someone like a son of man, dressed in a robe reaching down to his feet, and with a golden sash around his chest. The hair on his head was white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like a blazing fire. His feet were like a bronze glowing in a furnace, and his voice was like the sound of rushing waters. In his right hand he held 7 stars, and coming out of his mouth was a sharp double-edged sword. His face was like the sun shining in its brilliance. Among the lampstands was someone like the Son of Man. This references Aquarius, the sign of man. So it's the Son of Man with a golden sash around his head. Okay, so it's a metaphor. The sun is in Aquarius. Then hair on his head was white like wool, which comes from sheep or ram, referencing Aries. His eyes were like a blazing fire. Now he's talking about the blazing sun in Aries. His voice was like the sound of rushing waters. This is referencing Aquarius again, the story of the boy flooding the earth, Zeus. In his right hand, he held 7 stars. This is literally speaking of the Pleiades. For those who don't know what the Pleiades are, they're a group of 7 stars called the 7 Sisters. Okay. And there has been plenty of channelers talk about channeling the Pleiades. Barbara Marcinak was one of them. She had a very famous video that you could find on YouTube, the Pleiadian Message to Earth. It's very moving if you listen to it. And the more you start to learn these esoteric sciences, her channeled message is going to go from being unbelievable to incredibly accurate in your voice, in your point of view. But let's continue. Revelation 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. The first living creature was like a lion, Leo. The second was like an ox, Taurus. The third had a face like a man, Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the scorpion is the belly crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life, much like God sentenced the snake after the deception in the Garden of Eden to crawl on his belly as a punishment. Crawling on your belly is a punishment. In Mexico, where Secret Society is, there's a lot of religious people who what they do is they get dressed up in suits and they crawl on their belly to the church. I forget what it's called. We could probably discuss that a little further, but it's basically it's a symbolic gesture. So anyway, the eagle becomes Scorpio, okay? And the eagle evolves one more time. It becomes the phoenix. And what is the story of the phoenix? The story of the phoenix is the story of the sun. It's a flaming ball. There's a flaming animal that dies and comes back to life. That's the story of Jesus. It's the story of the sun. It's the same thing. Then Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. So you have things like cardinal and mutable signs and fixed signs in the zodiac. The reason they're called fixed is because they're fixed in their season. So Leo would be right dead smack in the middle of summer. Taurus would be the spring. Aquarius would be the winter. And the eagle or Scorpio would be the fall. Okay. Now look at what I've done here. Lion, Leo, man, Aquarius, draw a line. They're opposing signs. Ox, Taurus, eagle, Scorpio. Those are opposing signs too. If you see what I've done here, I've made an X through the zodiac wheel. It's a perfect alignment. This is what they're talking about. Okay, this is not meant to be taken as a four-headed monster that comes at you in a literal revelation. That's not what it is. This is what it's talking about. Revelation 5:5. Then one of the elders said to me, do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and the 7 seals. This mentions that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, also the Lion of Judah or Leo. The Son rules the planet of Leo and is able to open the scroll of the 7 seals again. Okay, now to me, the 7 seals are Pleiades. The Pleiades are in Taurus for those who are keeping count. But I'm open to a different interpretation. I don't usually do numerology. Because I think it's too open-ended. I think that astrotheology is much more, if you follow it, it's much more realistic and easy to follow. Revelation 6:1. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, come. We went over the 4 living creatures just before. Now, why would the first seal be opened by the Lamb? Well, the Lamb is Aries. Lamb is Ram is Aries. Okay, Aries is the beginning of the year. That's why the first seal has to be opened in Aries. Okay. Revelation 6:2. I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow. Well, that's just Sagittarius with the bow and the arrow. There's no real metaphor there to figure out. It's obvious if you know the zodiac. Before the Lamb stood Sagittarius, the white horse. And then I went over the 4 Gospels, 4 deaths, 4 Sagittarius in Revelation. Revelation 6:6. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. Okay. Well, the 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, that's Virgo. The barley is Virgo as well. The oil and the wine are both Libra. Those are connecting signs in the zodiac. Okay. In a lot of my work, what you're going to see is that there's a lot of connecting signs and there's a lot of opposing signs. Okay, that's how you know this was done on purpose, is they reference them. Okay, they reference the opposing or the connecting signs. Revelation 6:12. I watched as he opened the 6th seal. It was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. And the stars in the sky fell to earth as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The moon turned blood red. Figs dropped from a fig tree. The goat is Capricorn, and it's black because Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn, which is known as the black planet. And there's countless examples of how everything is Saturn worship, from the earrings, because Saturn has rings, to the wedding rings, because Saturn has rings. The Jews wear the black cube on their head. Okay, they wrap the tefillin around their wrist 7 times. Okay, and then they wear the black cube on their head. In Mecca, the Muslims go around the Kaaba. When you graduate high school and college, you wear the black mortar hat, mortarboard, whatever it's called. It's a black cube. The judges always wear black robes. It all has to do with Saturn. The moon turned blood red. Directly across, or Capricorn's cross sign, because we were just talking about the goat, is Cancer, whose ruling planet is the moon. So the first time figs are good to eat are in June or Cancer. The second time they are good to eat is from August to October, basically Libra. Revelation 7:4. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. So religious people will tell you that 12,000 people from each tribe go to heaven. It's the Mormons or the Latter-day Saints. I forget who it is. The Jehovah's, possibly. I don't know. Santos could speak better to that. Believe this is literal, that there's only 144,000 that go there. There are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals. The sacral has 6. The solar plexus has 10. The heart has 12, and the throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it is 2 times as powerful as the lower chakras. So 48 times 2 equals 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. When you add the lower 6, you get 96 plus 48 equals 144, and times that by 1,000, you get 144,000. What it's actually saying is that when you activate all your chakras, that's when you get to see God. Okay? You don't get to see God by being part of the 144,000 people. Okay, which from my understanding is predetermined. So there's nothing you could even do on earth. You're either predetermined to go to heaven or not. Okay? Revelation 9:3. And out of the smoke, locusts came down on earth and were given the powers of scorpions on earth. Okay? Now remember, in the Old Testament, where they talk about locusts as being an acceptable source of food. Okay? They talk about bugs that are acceptable source of food. Locusts are. But what else are locusts? They're plagues, okay? And plagues are, and what is a Scorpio? That's the betrayer. So they're given the power to betray. So they're either food or they're a plague. They're a pestilence, okay? So that's the betrayal. It's a metaphor. Revelation 9:7. The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads, they wore something like crowns of gold, and their faces resembled human faces. Their hair was like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. They had tails with stingers like scorpions. The locusts looked like Sagittarius. They wore a crown of gold, or the sun in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the man on the horse with the bow and the arrow. Their faces resembled human faces. So that's Virgo, the woman, and Aquarius, the man. Their teeth were like the teeth of Leo, the lion. Okay. Now it's important to know that Virgo and Leo are connecting signs. They had stingers like Scorpio, like scorpions, which is Scorpio. Revelation 12:1. A great sign appeared in the heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. Again, there are people that think they're going to look into heaven, okay? And when they look up into heaven, they think they're going to see a giant dragon about to devour a giant woman, and that's one of the signs of the apocalypse. But there's a much simpler explanation. The sign appeared. The sun in Virgo with the moon under her feet. If the sun is in a sign, the moon is directly under it. Okay, so we have 12 zodiac signs. You cannot look outside and look away from the zodiac. It encases us. Okay, remember the sun tells the day, the hour of the day, the moon tells the day of the month, and the zodiac tells the month of the year. It's a perfect calendar. Okay, or as perfect as it gets. Now, if the sun is in Virgo, okay, now there's 12 signs, there's a 24-hour day clock, so the sun spends 2 hours a day in each sign. It just makes sense. It's just math. If the sun's in Virgo, that's between 4 and 6 p.m. Between 4 and 6 p.m., the sun is still out. So if the sun is out, the moon is directly under it, right? Because if the moon is up, the sun is down. But if the sun is up, the moon is down, okay? She was pregnant, which is another sign towards the virgin birth. An enormous red dragon appeared, okay? The dragon is the constellation Draco, the dragon, whose tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius. That's 1/3 of the sky. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. That's all it is. This is just star poetry, guys. Revelation 13:2. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but it had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. There's a constellation called Camelopardalis. It can reference a camel, Camelos, and a leopard, Pardalis. The giraffe used to be called the camel leopard, which makes sense if you look at the thing. So the beast represented Camelopardalis, but had the feet of a bear. That's Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, which represent the great bear and her cubs. Okay, and the mouth of a lion is Leo. Revelation 13:11. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. The second beast coming out of the earth had a head of Aries, but spoke like a dragon. Draco is in Aries. Part of it is. In astrology, and I haven't gone over this yet, but if you wrap the human body around the zodiac, it all starts with the head in Aries and the feet end up in Pisces. The ruling planet of Aries is Mars, the god of war, why most Aries tend to be hot-headed and fierce. Okay? Revelation 18:13. Cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense, myrrh, and frankincense, of wine and olive oil, fine flour and wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and carriages, and human beings sold into slaves. Do you guys see in this 4-sentence paragraph just how many signs they're talking about? Wine and oil is September or Libra. Flour and wheat is Virgo, and the wheat stalk. Those are connecting signs. Cattle and sheep are Taurus and Aries. Those are connecting signs. Horses are Sagittarius, and human beings are the sign of Aquarius or Virgo. Aquarius and Sagittarius are connecting signs. Okay, there's a pattern to this, guys. These are the other books that I've decoded. That was the book of Revelation. Okay, it is not to be feared. It is not prophecy. And later on, I'm going to do an Illuminati hand symbol thing where I'm going to show you those are not to be feared either. The book's decoded. I've done the book of Matthew you saw last week, the book of Revelation. Next week, I'll do the book of Enoch, Jubilees, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, Melchizedek, Gospel of Philip, Gospel of Judas. Books not related to the Bible. It's not just astrotheology in the Bible. These are ancient holy books, okay? The Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Enuma Elish, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Code of Hammurabi, the Quran, and the Egyptian Book of the Dead. We are going to go through each and every one of these, okay? These are just topics that I've discussed in my book series, okay, which I have out, which teach in an interesting way. What I'm trying to do is commercialize this science. Okay, so I've written a 7-book series of thrillers, okay, that talk about these topics, okay, interwoven into them. They're very Dan Brown-like, okay? So if you liked his style, but you didn't like his information, this is going to be a different take on it, okay? The book series is called Into the Rabbit Hole. You can just search my name on Amazon, or you can reach out to me on social media. I'm Real Mr. Dank on Twitter and Micah Dank on Facebook and Instagram if you want to get signed copies, or if you just don't want to get them from Amazon, which a lot of people don't. I totally understand. That's why I sell direct too. Talk about gematria, etymology, numerology, astrology, astronomy, astrotheology. Astrotheology is the main theme through my books. Basically, there's evil companies or evil corporations or evil groups that hold humanity down by using astrology against us. Okay, that's the basic theme of the 7 books. Okay, OBEs, out-of-body experiences, the Akashic records, symbology, remote viewing, religious secrets, the capstones of the pyramids, mystery school channelers, near-death experiences, DMT monitoring, lucid dreaming, acoustic levitation, physics and quantum physics, psychotherapy, psychology, spiritual guides, and shared dreaming, crystal technology, conspiracies that not many people know about, which is the basis of my series too, corruption, secret societies, which is the basis of my series too. And I also talk about I wrote in a character later in the books who is she graduated from MIT as a tech guru. So there's a lot of new age technology that I talk about in there too. So that's basically it. This is what my first book looks like, okay? Beneath the Veil. A lot of you have read it already. Some of you haven't. This is my email, into the rabbit hole series @gmail.com. You can feel free to email me your thoughts. You can email me anything. I answer every single email, so you don't have to worry about, is he going to get back to me? Is he going to ignore? I don't. I talk to every single person. So I just wanted to go over that and tell you that Revelation is not something to be feared, people. It's not prophecy, okay? The way I see things, okay, understanding astrotheology and understanding all these ancient books and how they were written, it's not that we are now fulfilling ancient prophecy of the end times or what it's going to be like, because people can always interpret it that way. To me, what it is that the elites, the real elites, know about that these books are astrotheological. Okay, they know that. They know there's no I hate to use the word magic, but there's no divinity within them. Okay, that's not where divinity comes from. It doesn't come from religion. Okay, there's no divinity in this. So what they do is, instead of us prophesizing and seeing what they're doing, they know that this isn't prophecy. So what they do is they roundabout create events that we can interpret as end time events, and it keeps us talking. Basically, that's what I see it as. So I want to thank all you guys for listening again. Please reach out to me on social, guys. I love talking to people, and I hope to see you next week. And sorry about being sick.